The last brush stroke or brush category we're going to take a look at is what we call the real watercolor brushes, and they are located on the brush category called Real Watercolor, and you'll notice that it's made up of quite a nice variety of brushes to choose from. I'm going to begin by picking up a brush called the Fractal grainy brush, and one of the things you'll notice right off the bat if you take a look at the layers palette is that when I start to paint with this particular brush, it's going to add what we call a watercolor layer, and this is unique to Real Watercolor. So you won't be able to use other brushes on a watercolor layer unless you drop that layer to the canvas layer and then of course lift it or float it to its own layer in default mode. So remember that the Real Watercolor will actually add a watercolor layer when you're painting with it. We also have on the property bar a setting called Pause Diffusion, and when it's set, what happens is really actually a lot of fun. I'm going to select a color here and just start painting in to the brush, to the painting here, and you'll notice that this has a really beautiful transparent look to it. It's absolutely one of my favorite brushes to create the look of watercolor, and we're just going to fill this in a little bit here. And then we're going to select the Pause Diffusion and click on it so it becomes black or grayed out again. And you'll notice as I do that, the paint just diffuses as if you had worked on truly wet on wet paper. You know, the paint just kind of diffuses together and it just creates this lovely mingling of colors that is so reminiscent of traditional work. The settling rate for the brush is set to 100%, and what this means is you can adjust the amount of pigment that's basically deposited on the paper after the water evaporates, and the weight is also how quickly that pigment actually settles into your water, into your paper. So those are two very important settings. So if you want your settling rate to be you know, a little bit less, then bring it down. Go ahead and set your Pause Diffusion. You know, change your colors, whatever you're going to do as you begin your painting. Then go ahead and set your Pause Diffusion, take it off again, and just let those colors kind of mingle together. So that would be the Fractal brushes, and you'll find them towards the top. We have some other brushes here that are really great, like the Real Wet Filbert, which is one of my favorite brushes. And I'll honestly work with it with Pause Diffusion sometimes on, sometimes not on. But I do like the weight to go up a little bit higher, and I want the settling rate maybe around 90%. And we're just going to pick up a nice blue value to go into the water here a little bit with. And I don't have Pause Diffusion on. I'm just letting it do its own thing here. And the minute I stop my stroke, you can see that the diffusion takes place. And I can work into it a little bit more. There's also a great eraser on here called the Scratch tool, and this absolutely is one of my favorites. Again, perfect little brush for pulling out the whites of the paper. Again, if you want to, maybe you're looking to create some little breaking waves like I'm doing here, or if you wanted to pull out some whites of these cliffs here, this would be a good brush to do that with. Anywhere you want the white of the paper to show through. The white of the paper of a watercolor painting, you know, the white can be such a beautiful visual cue for you. It helps to move the viewer through the painting. I think it's because the starkness of it, you know, the contrast between the colors and where you choose to place, you know, to scratch out whites. And maybe we'll put those little sheep on the hillside again right here. The other thing we can do with it is to create a rather small size. I'm going to bring the opacity of the brush up a little bit and just maybe put in some little seagulls up in the sky here. Something like that. So these are just a few of my favorite brushes in Painter. There are so many, and again, as you learn more and more about Painter, how to use it, you're going to develop brushes that are your favorites as well. I like to call these brushes the workhorse brushes, the brushes that are your go-to brushes. They're the brushes that will get the job done for you, whether you're looking to create natural media watercolor, oils, acrylics, impasto, the list goes on and on. Again, these are just a few of my favorites, and as soon as you open up Painter and start going through the brushes, you're going to realize what a vast, wonderful assortment of brushes there are to work with in Painter. So enjoy.